standing by in Westminster because you have a big project to talk about today, Lisa. You're unveiling ambitious plans to tackle youth isolation. And from what I see here, you plan to offer young people somewhere to go, something to do, something meaningful to do with people who care about them. Is this a variation on what in my day would have been called a youth club?
Well, we are investing in the new generation of youth clubs and youth workers. We saw 73% reductions in funding to youth services under the last government, and we think that's caused a major problem, because what we've found through this first comprehensive plan for young people that this country's had since the iPhone was invented is that far too many young people don't have places to go, like youth clubs, like sports clubs. They don't have meaningful things to do. A lot of working class children whose parents can't afford to pay have just been shut out from arts, music, sport, dance, drama. And most of all, what young people told us is that too many of them don't have adults that they trust, that they can turn to, whether it's their mum or dad, their youth worker, their teacher, whoever it is in their life who has the ability to help them navigate the really complex world that they're growing up in. So we're providing more youth workers, more support for mums, dads, adults around young people to make sure that we can help this generation to succeed.
How quickly will you be able to do all of that?
Well, we're not wasting a minute because the challenges are really acute. We found that all young people across the world are grappling with big challenges about what is happening in the online world, about needing to have meaningful activities and the crisis of loneliness. But England really is an outlier when it comes to loneliness and well-being of young people. Our problems are bigger, and we really haven't dealt with them as a country for far too long. So we'll start rolling out funding immediately. We're setting up new Young Futures hubs, which will make sure that when young people go to those places, that they have the mental health workers, that they have the employment advice, they have all the things that they need there. That will start in March, but even before that, we'll start rolling out funding to existing facilities to make sure that they have the equipment that they need, the people that they need. And, you know, in my area in Wigan, we've got an amazing youth club. What we could use some more help with is things like transport to make sure that young people can get there. We'll be driven by what communities need and make sure that we get that funding out of the door and we get that investment into young people as soon as possible.
When we talk about this national inquiry into grooming gangs, after much pressure, you finally named a chair. That is Baroness Anne Longfield. Now, until yesterday, she was a Labour member in the House of Lords. She's since resigned the whip. But how can you reassure victims and survivors that this process is going to be impartial, that it's going to be independent, when you've got a chair who is so closely connected to the Labour Party?
Every time you're online, your money and your identity are at risk. Scams now make up nearly 40% of all crime in the UK. That's thousands of attacks every single day. In Britain, someone has their identity stolen every 2 minutes, leaving victims with wrecked finances and years of stress. The threat is real, and you could be next. ExpressVPN is your shield against criminals. It locks down your devices, hiding your personal information and financial details from hackers, scammers, and anyone else looking to exploit you. So whether you're checking your bank, shopping, or just browsing, ExpressVPN makes you invisible to prying eyes trying to steal your money and your identity. ExpressVPN shields your data with military-grade AES 256 encryption. That's the same standard trusted by the US government to guard classified information. This is the highest level of online security you can get. So don't wait for disaster. Secure up to 14 devices at once and get powerful password protection. Real support is available 24/7 because cybercrime never sleeps. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off ExpressVPN plus 4 months extra for free. Every moment you hesitate is another moment you're exposed. Protect your money and protect your identity. Get ExpressVPN right now.
Well, I've known Anne Longfield for over 20 years. I first met her when I was at the Children's Society working with children, including very early the victims of some of those grooming gang scandals, and she was a fearless and fierce advocate for children and young people then, speaking truth to power, and she's never ceased from that. So I believe she's absolutely the right person to do this inquiry, not just to get answers, but to get the action that has been denied to survivors of the grooming gangs for too long. But I do completely understand why so many survivors are sceptical about people in positions of authority. They've been let down over and over again. We've got to earn back their trust. We've got to earn their confidence by taking the action that they've been denied for too long. And I believe that Anne is precisely the right person to do that.
But are you earning back their trust when they were told they were going to be consulted on who the chair would be, that they were going to be spoken to about the terms of reference? And in fact, many of the survivors and victims telling GBNews this morning that they found out who the chair of the National Inquiry was going to be on this very channel. The government has not spoken to them and they weren't consulted. So it looks as though you've failed them before you've even begun.
Look, there'll be different views amongst victims and survivors, and they are perfectly entitled to express those views, and we will of course always listen. But we promised action, and like you said at the very beginning, these things take too long, and for too long people have been denied not just answers but action. That's why we've named Anne Longfield as the chair of this inquiry, and she is meeting with victims and survivors this week to make sure that from the word go they're at the centre of this process so that we get the right outcome.
Can we talk about this devastating report, this National Audit Office report, that essentially found that the Home Office doesn't know how many asylum seekers have absconded. They don't know the true cost of the asylum system to the British taxpayer, and also found that fewer than 1 in 10 failed asylum seekers are being deported from the UK. This is British taxpayers' money that we're talking about here. Is the Home Office even fit for purpose?
Well, the immigration system that we've had has not been fit for purpose for some time. We inherited a chaotic system from the last government who'd lost control of the borders, and the public need to have much greater confidence and trust in their immigration system. We've already taken steps to deal with this, including driving down the asylum backlog so that if people don't have the right to be here, we can remove them. We hit record numbers of deportations in our first year in office, but today, the Deputy Prime Minister is in Strasbourg dealing with another problem with the system that we inherited, which is that the human rights framework, which is important, which protects people who need safety and sanctuary, is too often being used to game the system and prevent governments, successive governments, from getting control of the borders. Now, we think that that is a major problem that is undermining public trust, and David Lammy is over in Strasbourg today urging European leaders to work with us to make changes to that system.
Well, that's going to be a major flashpoint, isn't it, with Labour backbenchers, many who think the ECHR is sacrosanct. But anyway, bringing you back to the asylum seekers who have absconded, what are you going to do to find them and find out where they have gone? I mean, I don't need to remind you about that horrific case this week. 2 Afghan asylum seekers jailed for raping a 15-year-old schoolgirl. Other live cases that we can't even speak about at the moment. It's time to confront this, isn't it?
Well, that's absolutely right, and that case is horrific, and like you said, there have been others, and of course we've got to confront it. In that particular case and cases like this, we've also got to make sure that we're removing people who are a danger to the public and don't have the right to be here. It's right that they go through the criminal justice system here, it's right that they are jailed, but we've also got to make sure that then we have the ability to remove people. When it comes to asylum seekers absconding, the Home Secretary has been absolutely clear that she will not hesitate to take whatever action is needed in order to get a grip on this system. But the system that we inherited was clunky, creaking, outdated, belongs in the 1980s, not in this century, and particularly having proper tracking and monitoring systems, not just paper-based systems where you have people going off and searching for records that are incomplete or don't exist, is an important part of this. On every front, we're not wasting time in taking the action that people have told us loud and clear is long overdue.
And finally, Lisa, just wanted to ask your thoughts on these no Labour MP stickers that are popping up in pubs up and down the country. Labour MPs being banned from pubs. This is in protest to November's budget, saying that it's making things incredibly difficult for the hospitality industry. What do you say to that?
Well, I'm a big fan of my local pub, so I'm relieved that there hasn't been any of those stickers going up there. But I guess what I would say is this, is that I really get why people are incredibly frustrated. Over recent decades in this country, people have really struggled. We've had the biggest fall in living standards in Victorian times. We've got public services that are on their knees and an economy that is just not working for most people. We've promised that we will turn that around. That does mean, as the Chancellor said, that we've got to ask people to make more of a contribution, but because of that we're able to invest in our National Health Service, we're able to invest in transport, we're able to bring people's energy bills down, freeze prescription charges. We're not hesitating to pull every lever that we can to make life easier for people, but if we don't get this economy growing, then those businesses are the ones that will suffer.
Okay.
And so we're asking people to make a contribution, but we do recognise that that is difficult in the short term in order to provide the certainty and stability that people need for this country to thrive.
Culture Secretary, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time this morning and good luck with your youth clubs. Thank you.